alcoholic, was hit on the head for no known motive. Police fear the killer or killers might strike again. It happened on the night before January's Crime Watch, Wednesday, January the 11th. Were you in Bristol then? Our reconstruction begins in the city centre, near the Broadmead shopping area.
Radio Bristol News.
It's 9 o'clock. This is Norman Rickard. The Civil Aviation Authority has ordered new safety checks following the M1 plane disaster on Sunday night.
The Stokes Croft roundabout is a popular meeting place for the city's homeless. They call it the Magic Roundabout. One of the regulars was Mickey.
He never ate much from one week to the next. Drink, that's as much as he did, from one bottle to the next.
It was mostly cider, but when funds were low, they had been known to drink meths, and lately he was drinking cider with Dettol.
Mickey came from Stoke Gifford, not far from Bristol, and he'd worked in various labouring and farming jobs. This is him 7 years ago at his sister's wedding. His parents had both died, as had his handicapped brother. Mickey lived with his sister for a time, but started drinking heavily, and soon afterwards left home. Because he stooped, he looked noticeably short and was known as Mickey Mouse, or Metal Mickey. He was only 33, but he seemed older.
Mickey was really a very ordinary sort of chap. Obviously his life had been blighted by alcohol. We'd known him for 5.5 years, and in that time we'd seen him deteriorate physically and obviously deteriorate. His trousers were always longer than his legs and under the heels of his shoes. Very shuffling gait. As his physical condition deteriorated, his walking became worse and worse.
Mickey was a nice popular chap. I remember in particular when one night I was doing the night shelter, I'd lost my purse, and Mickey was the first chap to offer me 50 pence for my bus fare home in the morning. And thereafter, whenever I saw him, he would always give 20p, 30p, whatever change he had for our funds. He used to use our night shelter a couple of times a week, but more recently he tended to skip her. That means sleeping rough wherever you can find a place.
The Sunday before he died, it was quite obvious that he and the little group that he moved around with had been on quite a binge for several days. On the day he died, I'd gone over to the charity shop, sometime after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I noticed from the window that on the bit of waste ground there was a fire which was blazing, quite brightly, quite strongly.
Hey, you two, put that out. It's dangerous.
Mickey was lying on the ground. Shortly afterwards, another witness remembers seeing Mickey and talking to his friend.
Hey, darling. What, 10p for a cup of tea?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there you go.
You want a cigarette?
Yeah.
You got another cigarette for me, mate?
There you go.
Oh, God bless
right.
you, darling. Hey, Mickey. Got ciggy for you.
Maybe Mickey left the fire. A social worker is convinced she spoke to him 10 minutes walk away.
I actually saw him as I was leaving about 4:30 as the day centre was closing, and we had a chat, and he was playing around with my lights, pretending to switch them on and off, and that was the last time I saw him.
Later, back in Picton Street, this witness, who'd known Mickey for 12 years, remembers seeing him lying dangerously close to the fire. There are several popular restaurants in this part of Montpellier. Did you pass through the area that night? A couple on their way to a meal recall hearing a muffled argument on the waste ground. The fire appeared to have gone out. Then at about 10:30, something unusual happened.
You a taxi? Yeah. Have you got a radio?
Yes.
We'll phone the police quick. I want them 3 men arrested.
Who were they, and who was the woman?
They come down Ashley Road.
The driver only called the police the following morning. Shortly afterwards, the couple walked back from their meal.
Strange place to keep down for the night.
There was only one man now, and he was lying flat on his back. Next morning, Mickey was found dead, but now his body was on top of the remains of the fire. He'd been battered on the head. Later that morning, the police received an anonymous phone call.
Force Communications.
Yes. Picton Street, yes.
The caller said he'd seen two men hurrying away from the waste ground at about 10:45 the previous night. The two are described as in their mid-20s, one about 5'10" tall, while the other was shorter and stockier. Police urgently need that caller and the men to contact them.
I feel very much it's a tragedy that we all share in. We're part of a society that pushes alcohol at people and then despises the folk who can't handle it. Mickey was that sort of person, and I would just be concerned that people don't think, oh, it's a tramp, it's a drunk, you know, it's not important. It's very important.
Ray Sargentson, why would anyone do this?
Well, it's a wicked motorless murder. All I can think is somebody's done it for kicks. And this is the man who had nothing, caused no harm to anybody, and in spite of his lifestyle certainly didn't deserve to die in the way that he did.
If it was young men out after pub closing time who went in for a bit of tramp bashing, as you suspect, that anonymous caller, who was obviously public spirit enough to recognise that he might have seen something important, he could be absolutely key to this investigation.
Well, I think he could well be the key, because from our other inquiries, we are fairly confident that he in fact saw the killers leaving the site.
Now, he rang you on the Thursday morning, that's the 12th of January. It's a long time ago, but you badly want to get in touch with him again now.
Yes, we do. He's a very public-spirited gentleman. He rang in, he's given us good information. We'd like him to be just a little bit more public-spirited and ring us with his name and address.
Now, what about those three men who were seen running away, the woman running after them? Were they involved?
Well, we don't know. We're very anxious to trace her as well. She's in the scene, very close to where the body was found. It's vital that we find her. She may well have seen the killers doing something to Mickey, or it may be innocuous. But until we've got rid of her, then we really do need to get hold of her and find out what she's got to say.
OK, so if that was you who called the taxi driver and said, please get the police, please ring us now, 01811 8055. Also, if it was you running away, frankly, I take it you're not interested in minor misdemeanours. This is a murder inquiry.
That's right. I mean, innocuous sort of high-larking, skylarking, mucking about is not of our interest. We're trying to trace the killers of Michael Fahey.
The taxi driver said there were a lot of people around that time on that night, 35 people maybe.
Yes, we've traced a lot of people, but clearly we've got a lot of unidentified people seen in the street by persons who have come forward, and I do anxiously urge anybody who's in the area, even if they feel they saw nothing, to come forward and help.
OK, the date is Wednesday the 11th of January. The time is 10:30 to 11 p.m, around pub closing time. Here's the number if you were there, if you can help in any way, 01811 8055. Or you can call the incident room direct, that's on 0272 267 992. That's 0272, the code for Bristol, 267 992.